It was a Tuesday. The rain was tapping softly on the roof. I remember that sound. It was a quiet, steady rhythm. I was in my daughter-in-law's house. I was packing a small suitcase. My hands were moving slowly. I was folding my clothes with care. Each fold felt like a memory. Each shirt held a story I thought I knew. The room was silent except for the rain. My heart felt heavy inside my chest. It was a weight I had carried for weeks. But on that day, it felt heavier than ever. I was leaving the home I had known for 10 years. I was leaving the family I had helped to build. The decision was not mine. It was not something I wanted. It was something that had to happen. My son had stood in this very room just an hour before. His eyes were on the floor. He could not look at me. He said they needed more space. He said the children were growing. He said it was getting too crowded. He used many words, but I heard the one he did not say. It was the word my daughter-in-law, Sarah, had said to me just the day before. Her voice was sharp, like broken glass. She told me I was a burden. She said I did not belong there anymore. So I packed. I did not argue. I did not cry. There is a strange calm that comes when your heart breaks. It is not a peaceful calm. It is the quiet of surrender. It is the moment you stop fighting the current. You just let the river take you. I looked around the small bedroom. It had been my sanctuary. Now it felt like a stranger's room. The pictures on the wall were of their family. Their vacations. Their happy moments. I was in some of them, smiling. But in that moment, I felt like a ghost in my own life. I picked up my favorite photo from the nightstand. It was a picture of me and my late husband, Arthur. It was taken on our 40th anniversary. His arm was around me. We were both laughing. We looked so young. We looked so full of hope. I traced the glass over his face with my finger. "Oh, Arthur," I whispered to the quiet room. "What would you do?" But he was not here to answer. He had been gone for 5 years. The loneliness since then was a constant companion. But this was different. This was a loneliness chosen for me by my own flesh and blood. I placed the photo carefully into my suitcase. It was the last thing to go in. I closed the lid. The click of the latches was a final sound. It was the end of a chapter one never thought would finish this way. I took a deep breath. I looked out the window at the rain. The world outside was grey and blurred. It matched the feeling inside my heart. I picked up my suitcase. It felt light in my hand, but my spirit felt so heavy. I walked to the bedroom door. I paused for a moment with my hand on the knob. I could hear my grandchildren playing downstairs. Their laughter was like music. It was a sound I loved more than anything. I would miss tucking them in at night. I would miss our Saturday morning pancake rituals. I felt a tear finally escape and roll down my cheek. I wiped it away quickly. I had to be strong. I had to walk out of this house with my head held high. I had to show them that I could survive this. Even if, on the inside, I was shattered into 1,000 pieces. I opened the door and stepped into the hallway. The house was so familiar. I knew every creak in the floorboards. I knew which step on the staircase groaned. This was not just a house. It was the place where I became a grandmother. It was the place where I learned to live without Arthur. It held my laughter and my tears. And now, I was walking away from it all. I started down the stairs, one slow step at a time. Sarah was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. She had her arms crossed. She did not look at me. She was looking at her phone. My son, David, was standing behind her. He looked pale. He looked like a man who had lost a battle he never wanted to fight. "The taxi will be here in 5 minutes," Sarah said, her voice flat. She still did not look up. I just nodded, even though she could not see me. What was there left to say? I reached the bottom of the stairs. I stood there in the entryway. My suitcase was at my feet. I felt small. I felt old. David finally met my eyes. His eyes were filled with so much pain. I saw the little boy I had raised. I saw the man he had become. I saw the conflict tearing him apart. I gave him a small, gentle smile. It was not a smile of happiness. It was a smile of forgiveness. It was a mother's last gift to her son. His chin trembled. He looked away quickly. Then, just as I was about to turn to the door, he spoke. His voice was rough with emotion. "Wait, Mom," he said. He walked over to a small closet. He opened the door. He pulled out a large, flat cardboard box. It was dusty. It looked like it had been stored away for a long time. This was with Dad's old things. From the attic. I think you should take it." He held the box out to me. Sarah shot him a look, but he ignored her. I took the box. It was lighter than I expected. "Thank you, David," I said softly. The honk of a taxi horn sounded from outside. That was my cue. My time was up. I picked up my suitcase with one hand. I held the mysterious box with the other. I looked at my son one last time. I looked at the back of my daughter-in-law's head. I listened to the fading laughter of my grandchildren in the other room. And then, I turned around. I opened the front door. I stepped out into the cold, rainy day. I did not look back. I walked to the taxi and got inside. The car pulled away from the curb. I watched the house, my home, grow smaller and smaller in the rain until it disappeared from view. The taxi ride was a blur. The world outside the window was just shapes and colors. The rain streaked the glass, making everything seem broken. I held the cardboard box on my lap. My hands were resting on its lid. I wondered what was inside. Arthur's things. He had been a man of few possessions. He valued people, not things. What could be in this box that David thought I needed now? I did not have the energy to open it. My mind was too full of other thoughts. It was full of memories. I thought about David as a little boy. He was such a happy child. He was always laughing. He was always curious about the world. I remembered him following Arthur around the garden. He would ask 100 questions about every bug and every flower. Arthur was always so patient with him. He would kneel down in the dirt and explain everything. I would watch them from the kitchen window. My heart would feel so full. It felt like a perfect, sunny day that would never end. Then David grew up. He met Sarah in college. She was beautiful and smart. She had a strong personality. I was happy for him at first. Every mother wants her son to find a strong partner. But slowly, things began to change. After the wedding, David started to become quieter. It was like his own light was being dimmed. He started to agree with everything Sarah said. His own opinions seemed to fade away. It was a slow process. It happened over years, not months. When Arthur passed away, everything changed. The grief was a heavy blanket over both of us. David was lost without his father. I was lost without my best friend. It was Sarah who suggested I move in with them. "The house is too big for you alone, May," she had said. "And we could use the help with the children." At the time, it felt like a lifeline. I was so grateful. I sold my home, the home I shared with Arthur for 40 years. I gave most of the money to David and Sarah. It was for the children's future, I said. I moved into their spare room. I thought we were helping each other. The first few years were good. I loved being a full-time grandmother. Little Emily and Jake were my joy. I would take them to the park. I would read them stories. I taught Emily how to bake my famous chocolate chip cookies. I helped Jake with his woodworking projects, just like his grandfather would have. I tried my best to be useful. I cooked most of the meals. I kept the house clean. I never wanted to be a burden. I wanted to be a part of the family. But as the children got older, Sarah began to change. She became more critical. The meals I cooked were never quite right. The way I folded the laundry was not her way. She would correct me in front of the children. She would make small comments. "That's an old-fashioned way of thinking, May." Or, "Oh, we do things differently now." I always nodded. I always tried to adapt. I did not want to cause any trouble. I loved my son. I loved my grandchildren. I was willing to put up with a lot for them. David saw what was happening. I know he did. Sometimes, he would give me a look. It was a look that said, "I'm sorry." But he never said anything to Sarah. He never stood up for me. That was the hardest part. It was not Sarah's words that hurt the most. It was my son's silence. It was watching him choose peace in his marriage over defending his mother. I understood it, in a way. He was stuck in the middle. But understanding something does not stop it from hurting. The taxi arrived at my new place. It was a small, one-bedroom apartment in a quiet part of town. I had rented it quickly, with the little money I had left. It felt impersonal. The walls were beige. The carpet was a neutral color. There were no memories here. There was no laughter in these walls. I paid the driver and carried my suitcase and the box inside. I closed the door. The silence was the first thing I noticed. It was not a peaceful silence. It was an empty silence. It was the sound of being alone. I put my suitcase in the bedroom. I placed the cardboard box on the small kitchen table. I stood there for a long time, just looking at it. The rain had stopped. A pale, grey light was coming through the window. I made myself a cup of tea. My hands were shaking. The familiar ritual of boiling water and steeping the tea bag was comforting. It was something normal in a world that had turned upside down. I sat down at the table with my tea. I stared at the box. Finally, I reached out and opened the flaps. There was no tape. It was just folded shut. Inside, there were a few of Arthur's old sweaters. I lifted one out and held it to my face. It still smelled faintly of him. Of his soap and his pipe tobacco. The scent brought a fresh wave of grief. It was so strong, it took my breath away. I missed him so much in that moment. I needed his advice. I needed his strong, quiet presence. Under the sweaters was a stack of old photo albums. I smiled through my tears. I remembered making these albums. Arthur was never one for pictures. But I insisted. I was the historian of our family. I documented every birthday, every holiday, every ordinary, beautiful day. I pulled out the top album. I opened it. There we were, young and in love. There was David as a baby. There was our life, captured in faded color. It was a life built on love and hard work. I went through all the albums. It was a journey through time. It was a visit with my own past. It made me happy and sad at the same time. When I reached the bottom of the box, I found something I did not expect. It was a small, wooden box. I recognized it immediately. It was Arthur's private box. He called it his memory box. He had kept letters from his father, his army dog tags, and other small treasures inside. He never let anyone look in it. He said a man was entitled to a few secrets. I had respected that. I had forgotten all about this box after he died. My heart beat a little faster. Why had David given this to me now? I lifted the wooden box out. It was locked with a small, brass key. I wondered where the key was. I looked inside the cardboard box again. I felt around the bottom. My fingers brushed against a small, cold piece of metal. It was the key. It had fallen under one of the flaps. I picked it up. It felt tiny and significant in my hand. I looked at the locked box. I wondered what secrets Arthur had kept. I took a deep breath. I inserted the key into the lock. It turned with a soft, smooth click. I opened the lid of the wooden box. The inside was lined with faded velvet. There were a few things inside, just as I remembered. His dog tags were there, on a worn leather cord. There was a faded black and white photo of his parents. There was a small, smooth stone he had kept from the river where he proposed to me. I smiled, touching each item. They were pieces of my husband. They were fragments of his story. Then I saw it. At the bottom of the box, underneath everything else, was a sealed envelope. It was not old. The paper was still white. It was not yellowed with age like the other things. My name was written on the front. It was Arthur's handwriting. But it looked different. It was shakier. The lines were not as firm and confident as they usually were. It was written with a hand that was unsure. A hand that was weak. My breath caught in my throat. When did he write this? Why did he seal it? Why had he hidden it away in this box? 1,000 questions raced through my mind. I carefully picked up the envelope. It felt heavy, not with weight, but with meaning. I turned it over. The back was sealed shut with no message. Just my name on the front. May. For a long time, I just held it. I was afraid to open it. What if it was something painful? What if it contained a truth I was not ready to hear? Maybe it was a final love letter. Maybe it was his last words to me. But why hide it? Why not leave it with his will? The mystery of it made my hands feel cold. The apartment was so quiet. I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat in my ears. I finally made a decision. I had to know. I had to read it. I carefully slid my finger under the flap of the envelope and broke the seal. Inside was a single piece of paper, folded in 3. I unfolded it. The writing was the same as on the front, Arthur's handwriting, but weaker. It was a letter. I began to read. My dearest May, if you are reading this, then I am gone. And if you are reading this, it means David has finally given you my box. I told him to wait. I told him only to give it to you if you ever really needed it. If you were ever in a place of great sadness or trouble. I hope that day never comes. But a father knows his son. And a husband knows his wife. I fear that after I am gone, things might become difficult for you. I had to stop reading. Tears were already welling in my eyes. He knew. Somehow, he knew. He had seen something in David, in Sarah, that I had refused to see. He had worried about me, even at the end. I took a shaky breath and continued reading. I have a confession to make, May. It is something I have carried with me for over 40 years. It is a secret I kept to protect you. To protect our family. But now, I think keeping it may have been a mistake. The truth is, the money that started our life together, it was not from the inheritance I told you about. I felt a cold not form in my stomach. What was he talking about? The inheritance from his uncle? We used that money for the down payment on our first house. It was the foundation of everything we built. My uncle left me nothing. The money came from somewhere else. Someone else. It came from a woman named Eleanor. The name meant nothing to me. Eleanor. I read on, my heart pounding. Before I met you, I was engaged to be married. Her name was Eleanor Grayson. We were young. It was not a deep love, not like what I found with you. But our families were close. It was an arrangement that made everyone happy. Then I met you, May. And my whole world turned upside down. I knew I could not marry Eleanor. I called off the engagement. I remembered that time. Arthur had seemed so serious when we first met. He had a weight on his shoulders. He told me he had just ended a previous understanding. He never gave me details. I never pressed him. The past was the past. Her family was very wealthy and very proud. They were furious. They felt I had humiliated their daughter. Eleanor, however, was surprisingly kind about it. She told me she understood. She said she wanted me to be happy. A few weeks later, she came to see me. She gave me a check. It was a large amount of money. She said it was her own money, from her grandmother. She said it was a gift. She told me to use it to build a beautiful life with you. She made me promise never to tell anyone where it came from. Especially not you. She said it would only complicate things. She said it was her way of wishing us well. I put the letter down. I stood up from the table. I needed to move. I needed to breathe. I walked to the window and looked out at the darkening sky. All these years. Our entire life together, our home, our security, it was built on a secret. It was built on a gift from the woman Arthur was supposed to marry. Why would she do that? Why would he accept it? And why, oh why, did he never tell me? I felt a strange mix of emotions. There was shock. There was a sense of betrayal. He had kept this from me for our entire marriage. But there was also a flicker of understanding. He did it for us. He did it to give us a start. He was a proud man. It must have been so hard for him to accept that money. To carry that secret all those years. I went back to the letter. There was more. I accepted the money, May. I am not proud of it. But I wanted to give you the world. I saw it as a way to do that. I thought I was protecting you from the truth. But as I lie here, an old man, I see things differently. Secrets have a weight. They grow heavier with time. By keeping this from you, I built our life on a lie. And I fear that my secret has shaped our son in ways I never intended. David found out about the money a few years ago. He came to me, asking about our family finances. He was under pressure from Sarah. He wanted to know if there was any more inheritance coming. In a moment of weakness, I told him the truth. I told him about Eleanor. I thought he was old enough to understand. I was wrong. My hands were trembling so much I could barely hold the paper. David knew. David knew about this for years and never said a word to me. He was angry. He said I was a fraud. He said our whole family was built on a charity case. He could not understand why I would take money from a woman I had jilted. He said it was dishonest. I tried to explain, but he would not listen. He changed after that, May. He looked at me differently. He looked at our life differently. The respect he had for me, it was damaged. And I fear that without me here, that anger and disappointment will be directed at you. So, my love, this is my confession. This is the truth I should have told you decades ago. I am so sorry. I am sorry for the lie. I am sorry for the secret. And I am so sorry for what my silence may have cost you. If you are reading this, then my worst fears have come true. You are alone, and you are hurting because of a choice I made a lifetime ago. Please find it in your heart to forgive your foolish, proud husband. I loved you more than anything. I still do. Forever yours, Arthur. I finished the letter. The room was spinning. I sat down heavily in the chair. All the pieces fell into place. David's distance. His inability to look me in the eye. It was not just Sarah. It was this. He saw me as part of his father's deception. He saw our family's foundation as shameful. He was ashamed of us. The pain was so acute, it was physical. It felt like a hole had been torn open in my chest. The love of my life had kept a secret that now, from beyond the grave, had shattered my relationship with my son. The letter he left me had indeed changed everything. It had explained the mystery of my son's coldness. But in doing so, it had uncovered a deeper, older wound. I felt betrayed by my husband. I felt abandoned by my son. And I felt a profound sadness for the beautiful, painful, complicated truth of the life I had lived. For days, I did nothing. I moved around my small apartment like a ghost. I read Arthur's letter over and over again. Each time, I found a new layer of pain. Each time, I felt a new wave of grief for my husband, for my son, for the family I thought we were. The knowledge of the secret sat inside me like a stone. It was heavy and cold. What was I supposed to do with this information? Should I confront David? What would I even say? The anger came and went. I was angry at Arthur for his pride, for his secrecy. I was angry at David for his judgment, for his coldness. But mostly, I was just incredibly sad. Sad for the young man Arthur was, trying to build a life for us. Sad for the weight he carried all alone. Sad for the son who lost respect for his father. Our story was not the simple, beautiful tale I had always believed it to be. It was messy. It was human. I thought about Eleanor, the woman who had given us our start. What kind of person does that? Her fiancé leaves her for another woman, and she gives him a small fortune as a wedding gift? It was an act of incredible grace. Or was it something else? Was it a way to maintain power? To always be a silent part of our story? I would never know. She was a ghost in our past, and now her ghost had stepped out of the shadows. A week after I read the letter, there was a knock on my apartment door. It was a soft, hesitant knock. My heart leapt. Was it David? Had he come to check on me? Had he changed his mind? I hurried to the door and opened it. It was not David. It was my granddaughter, Emily. She was standing there alone, her small backpack on her shoulders. Her eyes were red from crying. "Grandma," she whispered, and she threw her arms around my waist. I held her tightly. The feel of her small body, the smell of her shampoo, it was like a balm to my soul. "Emily, sweetheart, what are you doing here? How did you get here?" "I walked," she said, her voice muffled against my dress. "It's not far. Mom and Dad are fighting again. It's really bad this time. I got scared. I wanted to come to you." I brought her inside and sat her down on the small sofa. I made her a cup of hot chocolate. She held the warm mug with both hands. She looked so small and vulnerable. "What are they fighting about, honey?" I asked, though I feared I already knew. "It's about you," Emily said, her lower lip trembling. "Mom says you're being difficult. She says you should be happy in your new apartment." Dad got really angry. He yelled. He never yells. He said Mom didn't understand. He said it was about more than the apartment. He said it was about Grandad and a secret. My blood ran cold. So, the secret was still alive in their house. It was still causing pain. "What secret, Emily?" I asked gently. "I don't know," she said, shaking her head. "They just said that Grandad did something a long time ago. He said it was wrong. And then he said that you lived a life that wasn't really yours." She looked up at me, her big eyes full of confusion. "What does that mean, Grandma? How can a life not be yours?" Her innocent question broke my heart. How could I explain this to a child? How could I explain that her grandfather, whom she adored, had built their world on a hidden foundation? I could not. I would not. "It's just grown-up talk, sweetie," I said, smoothing her hair. "Sometimes, Grown-ups say things they don't mean when they are upset. I don't like it when they fight, as she said, leaning her head against my shoulder. I miss you, Grandma. I miss your cookies. I miss the stories you tell. Jake does, too. He just doesn't say it. Holding my granddaughter, listening to her simple, honest words, something inside me shifted. The anger and the hurt began to recede, replaced by a new, fierce determination. This secret had stolen enough. It had stolen Arthur's peace. It had stolen my home. It was now stealing the peace of my grandchildren. It was poisoning the next generation. It had to stop. The cycle had to end with me. I could not change the past. I could not change Arthur's decision. I could not change David's reaction. But I could change what happened next. I could choose to stop being a victim of this secret. I could choose to face it, to speak my truth. For the sake of Emily and Jake, I had to try and heal this wound. After Emily's mother called in a panic and I assured her she was safe with me, I made a decision. I would not confront David in anger. I would not accuse him. I would do what Arthur, in his final words, had asked me to do. I would try to forgive. And I would try to explain. I sat down at my small table that evening. I took out a piece of my own stationery and a pen. I would write David a letter. Sometimes, words are easier to write than to say. They can be read and reread. They allow for thought and reflection. I took a deep breath, and I began to write. My dearest David, I am writing this to you from my new apartment. It is quiet here. It gives a person a lot of time to think. I have been thinking about you a lot. I have been thinking about your father. I have been thinking about the family we were, and the family we are now. First, I want you to know that I love you. I have loved you from the moment I knew you were growing inside me. That love is a constant. It does not change, no matter where I live. It does not change, no matter what has happened between us. You are my son. That will never change. Your father gave me a letter before he died. You were the one who delivered it to me, in that box. I have read it. I now know about Eleanor. I know about the money. I know that you have known for some time. My hand was steady. The words were flowing. I will not pretend that I was not hurt by this secret. I was. I felt betrayed by your father. I felt confused and sad. But David, after the hurt faded, I tried to understand. I thought about the man your father was. He was proud. He was young. He met me, and his whole world changed. He was offered a gift that would give us a head start in life. A gift from a generous woman who wished us well. He took it. He took it for me. For us. Was it wrong to keep it a secret? Perhaps. But he carried the weight of that decision every day of his life. He carried it so that I would not have to. He built a beautiful, honest life on top of that one secret. He was a good man. He was a wonderful father to you. Our love was real. Our life was real. It was never a fraud. I paused, thinking of how to reach him. I understand why you were angry. You saw your hero fall. You saw a flaw in your father, and it hurt you deeply. But David, all parents are human. We make mistakes. We carry burdens we should share, but sometimes we are too afraid. Your father's one mistake does not erase a lifetime of love and integrity. And I need you to understand something else. That money was a gift. It was not a loan. It was not a debt. It was an act of kindness from one human being to another. We do not need to be ashamed of kindness. We should be grateful for it. I'm grateful to Eleanor. Because of her, I had 40 years with your father. Because of her, we had a home. Because of her, I have you. This secret has caused enough pain. It hurt your father. It has hurt me. And now, I see it is hurting you and your family. It is affecting my grandchildren. I cannot let that continue. So, I am laying down the burden of this secret. I forgive your father. And with all my heart, I forgive you, David. For your silence. For your anger. For asking me to leave. I forgive you. You are my son. My door is always open. My heart is always open. I am not asking you to understand everything right now. I am just asking you to read this. And to know that I love you. With all my love, Mommy. I sealed the letter. I put a stamp on it. I walked to the mailbox on the corner and dropped it inside. The click of the mailbox door closing felt as final as the click of my suitcase latches. But this was a different kind of finality. This was not an ending. It was a beginning. I had sent my truth out into the world. I had chosen love over anger, forgiveness over blame. Whatever happened next, I had done the right thing. For the first time since I left that house, I felt a sense of peace. I felt strong. The days after I mailed the letter were long. I kept myself busy. I unpacked my things properly. I hung pictures on the beige walls. I placed the photo of Arthur and me on my new nightstand. I made the apartment my own. It was a small, quiet life, but it was mine. I started going for walks in the local park. I joined a library. I was building a new routine. The sharp pain of betrayal was softening into a dull ache of acceptance. I thought about David constantly. I wondered if he had received the letter. I wondered what he was thinking. I resisted the urge to call him. The ball was in his court now. I had said everything I needed to say. The rest was up to him. It was a difficult lesson in letting go. A mother always wants to fix things for her children. But some things can only be fixed by the children themselves. A week passed. Then another. The silence was hard. There were moments when I felt despair. Had my letter made things worse? Had I pushed him further away? I had to have faith. I had to believe in the love I had for my son. I had to believe it was strong enough to bridge this gap. Then, one Saturday morning, there was another knock on my door. This knock was not hesitant like Emily's. It was firm. Certain. My heart jumped into my throat. I walked to the door and took a deep breath before opening it. It was David. He was standing there alone. He looked tired. He had lost weight. His eyes, which had been so full of conflict the last time I saw him, were now clear. And they were filled with tears. "Mom," he said, his voice cracking on the single syllable. That was all it took. I opened my arms, and he stepped into them. He buried his face in my shoulder, just like Emily had, and he cried. He was my little boy again, heartbroken and seeking comfort. I held him tightly. I did not say a word. I just held him and let him cry. The years of distance and misunderstanding seemed to melt away in that simple, human embrace. When he finally pulled away, he was embarrassed. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said. "I'm so sorry for everything." "Come inside, David," I said softly. I led him to the sofa. I made us both a cup of tea. We sat together, the steam from our cups rising between us. "I got your letter," he began. "I've read it every day since it arrived." I didn't know what to say. He looked around my small apartment. Are you okay here?" "I'm fine, David," I said. "It's small, but it's comfortable. It's mine." He nodded, looking down at his hands. "I was so wrong, Mom. About everything. After Dad told me about the money, I couldn't see past it. It felt like our whole life was a lie. I was angry at him. And when he was gone, I didn't know what to do with that anger. So I directed it at you. It was easier than being angry at a ghost. He took a shaky breath. And Sarah, she kept pushing. She wanted more space. She said you were interfering. I was weak. I let her convince me. I chose the path of least resistance, and I lost my mother in the process. He looked at me, his eyes pleading for understanding. Your letter, when you said you forgave me. I broke down. Mom. I realized that you were the one who had been wronged, and yet you were the one offering forgiveness. You were the strong one. Not me. Dad was right to give you that letter. You are so much stronger than I ever knew. Oh, David, I said, taking his hand. We are all just doing our best. You were caught between your wife and your mother. It is a difficult place to be. I should have seen it. I should have made it easier for you. No, he said firmly. No, Mom. This was on me. I am a grown man. I should have stood up for you. I should have stood up for our family. For the truth. He squeezed my hand. I've talked to Sarah. We've had some very long, very difficult conversations. I told her everything. About the letter. About Eleanor. About my own shame and anger. I told her that I need you in my life. I need you in the children's lives. My heart filled with hope. And what did she say? It was hard for her to hear, he admitted. But I think she finally understands that this is non-negotiable for me. She agreed to try. For us. For the family. He looked at me, a tentative smile on his face. The children miss you so much, Mom. Would you consider coming over for dinner next Sunday? Tears welled in my eyes again, but this time, they were tears of joy. I would like that very much, David. He stayed for a few hours. We talked more than we had in years. We talked about Arthur. We shared happy memories. We laughed about the time David tried to cut his own hair. We cried a little, too. It was a healing conversation. It was a bridge being rebuilt, one honest word at a time. After he left, I felt a lightness I had not felt in months. The heavy stone of the secret was gone. In its place was a new understanding. A deeper, more realistic love. I knew things with Sarah would not be magically perfect. There would be awkwardness. There would be work to do. But the door was open. The possibility of healing was there. Sunday arrived. I was nervous. I put on my best dress. I baked a fresh batch of chocolate chip cookies to bring with me. When I arrived at the house, David answered the door with a wide, genuine smile. Emily and Jake came running and hugged my legs, talking over each other in their excitement. Sarah stood a little behind them. She looked uncertain. She gave me a small, tight smile. Hello, May, she said. It's good to see you. It's good to see you too, Sarah, I said, and I meant it. The dinner was not perfect. There were moments of silence. There was a slight tension in the air. But it was a start. David led the conversation, telling funny stories. The children chattered away. I could feel Sarah watching us, seeing the easy way David and I interacted now that the secret was gone. She saw the love that was flowing freely again. After dinner, while David was putting the children to bed, Sarah and I were alone in the kitchen, washing the dishes. May, she said quietly, not looking at me. I want to apologize. For the things I said. For everything. I was stressed. I was worried about money. About space. I took it out on you. It was unfair. I stopped washing the plate in my hands. Thank you, Sarah, I said. That means a lot to me. I know I am not always easy to live with. I have my old-fashioned ways. She finally looked at me. It wasn't about your ways, May. Not really. It was about, I don't know. Control, maybe. Seeing David so upset about his father, I think I blamed you by association. It was wrong. We all make mistakes, I said softly. The important thing is that we are here now. We are family. She nodded, and for the first time, her smile reached her eyes. Yes. We are. It was not a magical, instant fix. But it was a beginning. A truce. A foundation for a new kind of relationship, built on honesty rather than on hidden resentment. That was a year ago. Life is different now. I still live in my apartment. It is my home, my sanctuary. I have come to love the quiet and the independence. But I am no longer lonely. David and the children visit me often. Sometimes, Sarah comes too. We have found a new rhythm. A new balance. My relationship with David is deeper and more honest than it has ever been. We don't just talk about the weather. We talk about real things. We talk about his fears, his hopes, his regrets. He has become his own man, separate from his father's shadow and his wife's expectations. I am so proud of the person he is becoming. One afternoon, David came over to help me hang some new shelves. We were drinking lemonade, taking a break. He looked at the photo of his father and me on the nightstand. You know, Mom, he said thoughtfully. I've been thinking a lot about Dad's letter. And your letter to me. I think I understand now why he did it. Oh? I asked. He wasn't just being proud, David said. He was protecting the story. The story of him and you. He didn't want another character in it. He wanted it to be just the two of you, building your life from nothing. He wanted it to be a perfect love story. I smiled. It was a perfect love story, David. Because it was real. It had flaws. It had a secret. But the love was perfect. The love was real. David nodded. I see that now. I was so focused on the one tree that was imperfect, I missed the beauty of the entire forest. He reached out and took my hand. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for being the one to teach me about forgiveness. Thank you for not giving up on me. A mother never gives up on her children, I said softly. I still think about Arthur often. The pain of missing him is still there, but it is softer now. It is a gentle ache. I am no longer angry about the secret. I see it as a part of his love for me. A misguided part, perhaps, but a part born of a desire to give me a beautiful life. And he did. He gave me a beautiful life. He gave me a son. He gave me memories that I will cherish forever. Sometimes, I even think about Eleanor. I feel a connection to her, this stranger from the past. I'm grateful to her. I wish I could have thanked her. Her act of unexpected generosity, born from her own heartbreak, set in motion the life I lived. It is a strange and wonderful thing, how our lives are intertwined with people we never meet. The other day, Emily was over at my apartment. She is getting so tall. She was helping me bake cookies, just like old times. She looked at me and said, "Hey Grandma, are you happy here?" I stopped what I was doing and looked at my granddaughter. I thought about the journey of the last year. The pain of leaving. The shock of the letter. The heartbreak. The forgiveness. The healing. It was a long and difficult road. But it led me here. To this small kitchen. To this moment of peace with my granddaughter. I put my arm around her and pulled her close. "Yes, my darling Emily," I said. "I'm happy. I'm truly happy." And I meant it. Happiness is not the absence of pain. It is not a life without secrets or sorrow. Happiness is what you find in the moments after the storm has passed. It is the warmth of the sun on your face after a long, cold winter. It is the sound of your granddaughter's laughter in your quiet kitchen. It is the mended relationship with your son, stronger for having been broken. The letter Arthur left me did change everything. It shattered the world I knew. But from those broken pieces, I managed to build something new. Something true. I learned that secrets, no matter how well-intentioned, cast long shadows. But I also learned that love and forgiveness are the only lights strong enough to dispel those shadows. I learned that it is never too late to start over. It is never too late to forgive. It is never too late to choose love. So, if you are listening to my story, and you are carrying a hurt of your own, I hope you will remember this. Do not let a secret, or a hurt, or a betrayal, be the end of your story. Let it be a turning point. Choose to forgive. Choose to understand. Choose to love. It is the hardest work you will ever do, but it is the only work that truly matters. Our family is not perfect. We are a patchwork of mistakes and forgiveness, of secrets and truths, of sorrow and joy. But we are together. And in the end, that is all that really matters. The end. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe, like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments.